Hello and welcome again. This is Brother G coming to you again with another video message. Has the resurrection passed yet? Has the resurrection, according to 2 Timothy, Paul to Timothy, his Greek student with his Hebrew mother, has the resurrection passed from the time of the written words up till this time? So some of the question that we'll be looking at is, when is the resurrection, or is there another resurrection at our point here? Or when was the resurrection when Paul was writing to Timothy? Did the resurrection come to pass? And the question we all have to ask and answer and somewhat conclude on is, what is the resurrection? Here we have Paul in 2 Timothy talking to his student, his disciple. And we're going to understand that Timothy was ashamed of the gospel, and rightly so. He would be ashamed of the gospel, because many eloquent people coming into the churches and they seem to know more than what Timothy knew because he was young. And so Timothy, to me, the implication here, which is valid, that Timothy just stopped preaching, because further up in Timothy, Paul says he's not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power of God through salvation and such like that. So Timothy was, if you want to say, he was offended by what he understood because eloquent people was coming in. So at the end of this teaching right here, as I use a few verses, you have to read the whole context of Timothy and see how this worked. But we want to understand what is the resurrection, or when Paul put this accusation against this particular person. I forgot his name, you could look it up. We're gonna see here, without coming with thousands of verses and different perspective, that right here in this passage you're gonna see what he's talking about to be the resurrection. You're gonna see clearly what is the resurrection without going to 15 scriptures, 15 verses, just to prove what he already says right here to Timothy. And let's go. It says, study to show thyself approved. It says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So that means that Timothy was ashamed. And this, interestingly enough, it says, study to show thyself approved unto God. How then God will approve you? This is very interesting, because if we study in college, to be approved by the college or to be approved in your class, you have to have a high grade, and the teacher have to mark your score and said that you get 90% right or whatever, and then they show it to the other students. So you're approved by the teacher, or you're approved by the institution, which is the college. But very interesting to study thyself to be approved unto God, because God is a spirit. So now, how would God approve you versus how institution would approve you? This is a very interesting question, because we can all see when a institution approve you, they give you certificate, they give you baccalaureate, they give you master of whatever. Paul is saying to Timothy that he must study to be approved by God, a workman that need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So one of the approval is rightly dividing the word of truth. And the word dividing don't mean in this context as separating. Divide, I understand, is actually the word understand, understanding the truth and how to use it. For example, when Jesus was in the wilderness, the devil was also quoting scriptures, and Jesus was also quoting scriptures. And we, by virtue of understand Jesus is of the good line, we by virtue understand Jesus was dividing the word of truth by his quoting of the scripture, and the devil was not dividing the word rightly according to his temptation to Jesus, but the devil was using the scripture just like Jesus was using the scripture. So that's just one example. It is obvious to me then, by this written text, that Timothy was coming upon some of those elders in those churches. They were not rightly dividing the word of truth. They didn't understand it, and they were doing similar acts like the devil in the wilderness. Who 16 and 18, Paul then says, "But shun that, put away profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness, who concerning the truth have heard, saying that the resurrection is past already, and overthrow the faith of some." Now, basically, Paul here is saying to Timothy that the elders he is admonishing Timothy to put away profane and vain babblings. That means some of the elders in the churches were profane and they were doing vain babbling, and it's increasing the people to more ungodliness. Now, question right here, let's interject. You think that ungodliness right here is part of the resurrection? In other words, the resurrection is people becoming godly. They're moving away from ungodliness to godliness, and so therefore they are resurrected in the spirit, who concerning the truth of earth. So Paul is saying these people of earth. Okay, all right. So the reason why the resurrection couldn't have passed according to this document here by Paul, because we would want to hear the side of the person who is accusing, said the resurrection. Of course, I would want to hear him, but all right, we're going to take Paul's words for the gospel. All right. But he said that the people them have wrong. They have this particular teaching is that the resurrection is past. And Paul is saying, and I would assume by here reading, say, if they are err and they are walking in ungodliness, the resurrection couldn't have passed yet because they are in the wrong. Okay, who get what I say? Basically, based on 2 Timothy 2 and 16 and 18, Paul said the resurrection couldn't have passed because people are walking in ungodliness still. So there must come a time in their time span, that these people is going to wake to godliness. And so, by virtue of just looking at Paul's verse right here, so it couldn't have passed because the people them still are walking in ungodliness. See, that's the truth right there. Look now the following, the next verse now. Nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure. That means according to Paul and this right here, the people that must say the resurrection at Paul's time had passed. They were moving away from the foundation of what was taught. That's now Paul say it stands sure. The teaching that they know stand sure. Having this seal, the Lord knows them that are his, and let everyone that name the name of Christ, it says, move from lawlessness. So in other words, the resurrection here is a resurrection to righteousness, or a resurrection moving from iniquity. So this is the resurrection. The resurrection is the resurrection to life, meaning living good according to what we have already known, established. Without going into thousands more of verses, the preponderance of evidence of scriptures, life, experience teaches us that there is a set way to live, and it is established, it is profitable, and basically people is moving away from that to ungodliness, and you see destructive lifestyle. That's basically it. And there are thousands throughout the ages of this world, resurrection upon top of resurrection, because people are given grace so that they could understand the grace and the goodness of God to come back to godliness, and they could see it in their lifestyle. So basically, resurrection is not, Paul had that time, and Timothy, they saw the resurrection, and every age is as it passed, because God's a spirit, and the enemy is always fighting against God's people to make them become ungodly. Is when, yes, the simple answer is there are many resurrections through the ages, because God is a spirit. Even though man die in trespass and sin, because God is a spirit, God work with us until we reach to the understanding of the truth. Even though the devil tempt, test, subjugate, subterfuge, and try to make us walk ungodly, God will